Welcome to the Jet Set Hers podcast. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Jamie. We discuss travel, adventure, and everyday life. Listen with us and let's go somewhere.
Hi!
Yo, Jenny, what's up?
Just excited that fall is coming. I did love summer, but I'm enjoying these cooler mornings that we've been having.
Yay, fall is one of my faves too. It's still pretty warm and toasty here yet. We're not all the way into fall vibes.
And guess what I had today?
What'd you have today?
A pumpkin cream cold brew. So good.
From Starbucks?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite drinks. And I'm going to be basic right now with you and just say it. I love pumpkin spice everything. So
Same.
Sue me.
Right. Sorry.
Sue us. Yeah.
Basic bitches.
Sorry, not sorry, actually.
And I'm just really excited for all the fall beers that are popping up. And you'll definitely be hearing about them because I'm going to go stock up my fridge for the pod.
Love the fall beers. Love the Oktoberfest beers when those start coming. And cooler weather brings spooky time. So, Halloween is upon us.
It's my favorite holiday.
Same. Why are we the same?
And good news, me and my sisters finally worked it out and scheduled a celebration of life for both my mom and dad in our hometown, Panama City Beach in Florida. And then just a little tip for those of you using Google Flights. So I've been searching for flights to go home and would type in, Denver, Colorado to Panama City Beach, Florida, because they have an airport. And I found one. It was like $40 round trip. And I was like, sweet, this is awesome. Well, if you read the tiny little fine print, I was literally about to hit buy, it was sending me to Atlanta. And it said, oh, it's only 200 and something miles to your destination. And I'm like, I almost bought it. And luckily I paid attention and realized it was Atlanta. But keep that in mind when you're using Google Flights, is it doesn't necessarily send you to your destination at first glance.
I've never used them before, but I'm glad you gave us a little PSA because for some people that don't know, they could have easily just clicked that. So good thing you were looking because, yeah.
So yeah, keep that in mind. Make sure you're reading that fine print like I was not doing. So I ended up having to spend $225, which, as you've heard on the podcast before, I like getting them $30, $40 flights. So I was not happy about it, but I get to take a carry-on and a personal item. So I can actually pack like a normal person, which will be nice. So
yeah, you'll have enough space for probably all your outfits and everything you'll need. So that'll be nice.
So today's guest, we're really excited for you to hear. Her name is Cheryl Leitschuh, and she was just such a sweetheart, and we just had such a great time talking to her, and I think you'll enjoy listening.
Yeah, Cheryl was awesome on the show, and we had tons and tons of laughs. This interview in particular, I know we did not stop laughing. So again, Cheryl, thanks for coming on. We had a wonderful time with you.
Yeah, so here's Cheryl. She is a travel advisor, and she's the owner of LetTravelAdventuresBegin.com.
Here's Cheryl. Enjoy.
Introducing our guest today, Cheryl Leitschuh. She is a travel advisor and owns LetTravelAdventuresBegin.com. Hi, Cheryl.
Good morning. It's so delightful to be here. Or evening, whenever people are listening, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's 10 a.m. for me. So that's kind of the fun part, is I start my Mondays off normally with a beer early in the morning.
Bless your heart.
It's my day off, though. So then I can just go do some grocery shopping and be productive. So we're good.
Keeps the day interesting. Start off with a bang.
It does. It does. I would prefer mimosa. I should have brought one for the show. But anyway, we are good.
Yeah. What's your go-to mimosa flavor?
Flavor. Well,
because orange juice isn't necessarily the only one anymore.
That's true.
Grapefruit, apple, cranberry. Grape juice. There's so many options.
Yeah, I'm kind of old school, I guess. I like the orange juice, but more Prosecco than orange juice.
I was going to say, what's the ratio?
Yeah. Yeah. A little orange juice just to make it feel legit, but prefer the Prosecco.
A little orange juice for color.
Actually, yesterday I had some ladies order a glass of Prosecco with a side of OJ. And I'm like, smart. So then you can modify,
Control.
and you get more prosecco that way too. So it's smart.
That's actually clever.
Yeah. I'm
Now we
writing
know.
that down.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenny. Bartender tip.
Tip of the day. So I see that you're drinking coffee over there. Is that correct?
I am. It's only 11 o'clock here, so I'll stop my coffee here shortly. But
Yes. And she's in Minneapolis, which
yes, I
I'm
am.
excited to kind of touch on later. So, Jamie, what are you drinking?
Today, I actually have something really fun that I noticed in the store that's caught my eye a few times. It's keeping it local with Bell's Brewery, but it's Flamingo Fruit Fight.
I
Really
like the
cool
name.
bottle.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's a little sour. It's a ghost styled ale with lemon lime, but it's a little sour for me. It's only 4.8%, but it's good. It's a little sour.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't do the sours. Even just smelling them, my cheeks like
Pucker.
yeah. Is
Yeah.
that the term?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can't either. I'd go more for a porter or a cream ale, something like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What about you, Jenny? What are you sipping on today?
So, in honor of the new edition, which I know we've posted on social media about my puppy Kona, I went with a Kona Brewing beer today, and it's their Castaway IPA, 6%. I love Kona. I feel like all their beers are pretty solid. So,
Great brewery. Well, let's cheers, ladies.
cheers.
Cheers.
Just introduce yourself. Let's learn about who you are.
Okay. All right. Well, I love that you start the show by asking that question because I think it's our stories that always weave us together, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, congratulations on having done the podcast for a year. That's a real commitment
Thanks. Yeah.
for you guys to have done that for a year. So,
Thank you.
and I
Appreciate that.
love your show. Your show is so fun. Anyway, me, well, so I'm a little older than the two of you, so I'm not going to take you too far back, but I do think we find our career paths and we find our passions in different ways, right? So when I was a little girl, which was ancient ago, travel came in the travel section of your newspaper. There was not such thing as the internet. So that's why I say I'm, older than dirt. And when I was old enough to start writing my name on the little coupons in the travel brochure, I would start filling out those coupons and sending them away, loving getting all the travel brochures coming back to me. And that was I would say that lasted for about 2 to 3 years when I was a little girl. So I'm telling you this for a reason, because the travel agency business came back and surfaced for me later in life. Because, I did the typical thing, went to college and all that. I actually have a doctoral degree in psychology. I've had a therapy practice in the past. And
Wow.
I moved into then doing corporate consulting. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had many entrepreneurial businesses, but mostly within the psychology leadership development field. So I've worked with companies all over the world. I've been really blessed to be just a small entrepreneur here in Minneapolis, but a lot of doors open for me so that I could work with companies throughout the country and throughout the world. About 7 years ago, I hit one of those times that probably hits for many people of what do I want to do next, right? I kind of tired and done with this, with the leadership development, the psychology stuff was great, but what do I want to do next as I move into the next chapter of my life? So I did start mentoring some women-owned small businesses, which I love. I love supporting the women-owned small businesses, but I was looking for me. What do I want to do next? Interestingly, about 3.5 years ago, the travel agency business showed up in my world. And I thought, now, isn't that interesting? Bringing you back to age 6 and 7, when I was just obsessed with travel and destinations. And we've always done a lot of travel. So I thought, all right, well, that's interesting. It's completely different than what I've done before. I love that this has just shown up in my world, and I'm just going to follow the path and see what happens. So I started my travel agency about 3.5 years ago, mostly working with friends and family who knew I loved to travel, and I'd been helping them plan travel anyway. And when you are a travel advisor, you get a lot of great travel opportunities, pricing, that kind of thing. So my husband and I took advantage of a lot of that before COVID. I had a lot of great trips planned for friends and family in 2019. but was really not very public with the travel agency business because I was trying to figure out, was this going to be the right path for me?
Mhm.
COVID hit, and I spent most of 2020 canceling trips for people.
Oh no.
Yeah, because that's kind of what happened when COVID
Mhm.
hit. But it led me to say, do I really want to keep doing this as a business? And how do I want to keep doing this as a business? So in that introspection, I decided, yes, I love the travel agency business. I really had been decreasing my consulting work. Long ago, I sold my therapy practice, all of that. So people just kept showing up. And even though we're still kind of in COVID times, some people have been traveling, some not. But I did more to kind of augment and learn more about things that were going to be beneficial to helping my clients who come to me wanting travel. So it's been a great fun time, even though the travel agency business is not 100% ready to go. People are not ready to go. The risk factor is different for everybody, but I have my finger on the pulse of what's happening. So if you want to go to Greece, I can tell you what's it going to take for you to get in Greece, and more importantly, what's going to take for you to get back home from Greece, right? What's happening almost daily. Well, daily I get updates on what's happening with travel related to the COVID variations, what's happening with cruises, that kind of thing. So I love being the resource, the door that opened for me, the path that I kind of let my heart follow, has just made a lot of sense for me. And I have appreciated being that resource to people to help them figure out what makes sense for them with travel, whether it's now or next year or even 2023.
Right.
As you're thinking about opening that door again, what does that look like for you?
And I didn't even realize like that's a whole new category of stuff you have to know with COVID now is like the requirements for going in these countries, for leaving them, the US requirements. Like that's a whole
And,
different
e-
subject.
and even more granularly, some of the countries that had opened are now, the restaurants and shopping are saying you can't come in unless you have a COVID vaccine, and you have to
Mhm.
show proof of your card. So things are very different when you travel overseas versus here in the United States. We have freedom of choice, and different places can set their restrictions, but they're much more strict when you travel overseas.
Right.
Even Mexico, which has been a free-for-all during COVID, there's now a lot of restaurants and areas within Mexico that are saying, nope, if you are not vaccinated, you can't come into our shopping place, you can't come into our restaurant. Vaccination, I know, is a whole political topic, but it also is a reality. And I don't get into politics, right? Everybody gets freedom of choice is what they want to do. But
Right.
it does mean some things for you when you
Hmm.
travel as to what you might be able to do and what you might not be able to do, not by your choice, right?
Right.
By travel restrictions. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Every country is different on that subject. And some countries are still struggling a lot worse than we are with it too. So,
Yes, I think that's the other thing is we here in the United States, yeah, we've got the Delta variant picking up its head a little bit. We're used to kind of still having that freedom of choice, and our numbers are looking actually pretty good, even though we have some bumps in the road happening right
right.
now. But
So we ask everyone this question, but what does travel mean to you?
well, so I have a sign in my office, which because we're on Zoom, you guys can see, which says travel far enough that you find yourself. And so maybe there's a bit of psychologist still in me, right, with the travel business, because I find that travel, when I go to different cultures, even if it's in the United States, and I go to different states, it opens up a piece of me to know more about different people and how different people operate. Even to just go and find my own joy in laying on the beach or discovering a new shop or a new restaurant or a new food that I haven't tried before. To me, it just opens the door to a new perspective about life and the world, and always that joy of traveling.
I agree.
Yeah. What about to you two? What does travel mean to you?
So I have a couple. So I just have this urge to see everything in the world, especially like anything historic. If like something historic has happened, I want to see it. If it's old
Ah,
and like ruins, better. Love it. But also, I think it's healthy for everyone to travel to get different perspectives, especially like the what we just talked about with COVID. It's not just America. It's not just how we do things. There's so many different cultures, so many different ways of life, and I think it's healthy for people to experience them. And I think it would help a lot of racism that we experience. I think it would help a lot of stuff like that, just to see we're such a tiny, tiny portion of this world that we live in.
Oh, I love that.
Just a speck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
And for me, it's probably just peace of mind. For me, I love, like Jenny said, I want to see everything that there is to see, and just being anywhere is a peace of mind for me.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's always interesting because I'll ask clients that too, that come to me, what do you want from your travel? And some people, it's like, I just want to unplug, right? Or I just want to be in nature, or whatever it is. And I think that that's so important when you're thinking about your travel plans. Yes, you can say, what's the best travel bargains out there? And I do have people come to me and I say, well, I don't know. I could send you to Europe to look at castles and you would be miserable, right? And that's not a bargain. You've just spent a lot of money on something that it doesn't make sense for you. So it's important to kind of know, what are you looking for?
Yeah, everybody's travel journey is going to be different.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We had a guest on here say, like, when you're doing like the online dating and people are always like, oh, I love to travel. And she's like, that's not the important part. It's what is your travel style? Because are we going to mesh or not? Like, do you like to stay in hostels when you go abroad? Or do you need that 5-star suite at the hotel? So I thought that was clever.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
That's so true, though.
Yeah, you have to be
Yep.
compatible in your travel style. You could both love to travel, and that's great, but there's so many different ways of travel. So
It's funny. I have friends of mine who'll say they love to camp. And they're like, you should join us for camping. And I'm like, okay, is there a hotel nearby? Because I won't be camping.
Right.
I'd be happy to come out and sit by your fire for a while, but yeah.
but then I'm going to go tuck myself into my nice bed.
With a shower and a bathroom I don't have to share with everybody at the campsite, right?
Yeah, I'm more of a glamper myself, too.
Yeah.
Mhm. I'll come hang out. I mean, I'll stay late, but if there's a little place nearby that, I'll be a little bit more comfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to do that too.
Yeah, I agree.
See, I love the camping. I'm going to be roughing it.
See, I
See?
can rough it too, but
Yep.
I've had many years of horrible experiences. So now I'm to the point where I'm upgrading myself. If I can do it, I'm going to do it. So don't get me
Yep.
wrong, I've roughed it. And I like roughing it, but
I get what you're saying.
sometimes, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I love your point that different ages and stages, you're just ready for different things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And knowing that is important when you're planning your travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that a lot on our interviews too, is people that used to love hostels and staying, in a room with 12 strangers, but that as you get older, it's like, okay, well, I did it. I had the experience. Now I'm going to take that Airbnb cottage down the road or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
So I know you said you focus heavily on Hawaii. Like, how did that happen?
Well, some of it happened because I had clients that were in Hawaii. And so I had the benefit of going to Hawaii many times. I've been many different places, and people are always surprised when they ask me, what's your favorite place? And I go, well, my favorite place is Hawaii. There's just a peacefulness to the culture there. The whole aloha culture is so welcoming and so grounded. And the diversity in Hawaii, I've been a number of different Ubers, and you'll find people from all over the world that have moved to Hawaii and are existing there. So I love the cultural information and exchange that happens in Hawaii. Oh my gosh, so I could go on forever, but the color of the water when you're landing in that airplane and you're looking out the window, and the color of the water in Hawaii is a color like you've never seen before. I've felt the same way when I've seen the glaciers in Alaska. It's like the color is one, you can't even describe it because it's so awesome. That picture, and I picture it as I'm saying it, talking to you about it, that picture just immediately brings some level of peace and some level of just grounding whenever I visit Hawaii. Whether I visited for work and business in the past, or now I visit for vacation, that whole culture just speaks as soon as you enter that space. At least it does for me. The other thing I love about Hawaii is each island is very different. So You can go to a total nature, kayaking, mountain climbing, hiking, adventure. You can go to, you talked about history and some of the ruins. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the volcanoes and the black sand and the big island of Hawaii is a whole nother just historical perspective of nature and of that culture.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go to the beaches of Maui and be in a wonderful resort area with delicious foods, and just the ocean right there outside your door as you're walking in your flip-flops along the ocean front. Or you can go and be very metropolitan and go to Honolulu and Waikiki Beach, where the shopping, oh my gosh, if you want Jimmy Choo shoes, Jimmy Choo's got a shop right there. And you'll see, they always talk about the number of Japanese that come shopping to Waikiki Beach because it's cheaper. Number one, the exchange rate is better. And there'll be like bags of Jimmy Choo shoes. I don't think I could afford one pair of Jimmy Choo shoes, but $500-$600 for a pair of shoes is not where I'm at. But you'll see the shoppers there. And if that's what you want, there are just high-end shops all along Waikiki Beach with surfers on the beach, surfing and coming in, and the little restaurants along the beach. So you can get pretty much anything you want in a trip in Hawaii. And that's what I love, particularly people who are saying, well, I want this. And there's a combination of people that are going on the trip. You can get both of those things, or any of the things in Hawaii.
So I have never been, Jamie has, but we've
Uh-huh.
talked about it several times now on the podcast, and I need to go very soon.
Yes.
Just the hiking alone. I had a friend that lived there briefly, and she was telling me about some of the trails, and it's the ones like you don't do by yourself because they're so crazy.
Right. And the
Oh,
different islands, the hiking is different
yeah,
on each of the islands, right? Yeah. So
Love
Jamie,
that.
where have you gone in Hawaii?
we stayed on Oahu, so we were in Honolulu.
Mhm.
Yeah. We were there for like 10 days. So we did everything. We went to the North Shore. We did a tour one day. We went swimming with the sea turtles. And it's funny that you mentioned earlier, people come from all over the world. Our tour guide was from Peru, and he lived there for 5 years, and he absolutely loved it. He knew so much, and he just had a love and a passion for what he was doing. And it was super cool. He took us that trip went us all around the island that day. We did little stops on the side of the road. Absolutely incredible. North Shore was beautiful. The restaurants, the whole entire trip.
Yeah, and if you want tips of where to go, talk to your Uber driver, because they will tell you
Yes.
off the beaten path restaurants that all the locals go to. Yeah, talk to because they want you to have a great time. That is
Yeah, no
really
doubt.
that aloha culture.
I actually met a friend that I still talk to this day that lived out there, and he lives in Seattle now, but just so cool. Everybody was so friendly when we were there. We were there for like 10 days, I think. We had a rental car, so it was really easy to maneuver around the island. We
Mhm.
did Uber a couple times, and yeah, Uber drivers, they want you to have the best time.
Mhm.
Such good recommendations. So amazing.
And that's good advice for I feel like anywhere you travel to is talk to the Uber drivers
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
because they're
I agree.
locals, they live there, they know things that you're not going to find probably in a guidebook anywhere.
Hmm. My favorite island is Kauai. So if you go back, Jamie, you might want to check out Kauai. Small town feel to it. So there, you don't need to dress up, but it has beautiful hiking. We did some kayaking back to some waterfalls, and I'm not a huge kayaker, but we had a guide do that. The surfing, watching the surfers is amazing. Yeah, that's called the Garden Island, and it
Okay.
really lives up to. And there's chickens that run throughout the roads. And the story is that there was a hurricane that came through several years ago, and they have a lot of chicken farms on the island of Kauai. And so the chickens, the coops were blown over. And so the chickens just started wandering the island and, mating and creating more chickens. And they just decided never to round them up. So you'll be walking along, and all of a sudden there's a chicken in the middle of the road with beautiful feathers. And in the morning you'll hear the chickens, crowing, the
It's so
roosters, I
cute.
guess it would be, crowing
Right.
on the island. It just gives you that kind of small town nature feel to it at the same time that you're in the Hawaiian Islands.
Yeah, we want to go back and check out other islands for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
they are, like you said, they're all different.
They are.
And we had a couple of my friends on, they got married in Maui. So they came and told us about Maui, which is completely different from Oahu. So
Yes, and in Maui you have the road to Hana's. So
yeah,
Hana. So, and again, you go up they say go first thing in the morning or late at night, which I wouldn't want to drive that road either time. But you can you can get on a tour. But the stars are so bright, and the morning sunrise and evening sunset. Again, you can't even describe what it is that you see. So if you like to be moved in that way on kind of a spiritual level, yeah, Hawaii is always speaks to me.
Well, and when you were explaining, like, if you want to be hiking or doing, I want to do all of that. So I would need to go to all the islands.
I love it, Jenny. I love it. You want to explore every place in the world and do everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that too much to ask?
No, because the world is your oyster.
that's right. The world is your oyster, bud.
Uh-huh.
So speaking of Hawaii, since we're already on the topic, do you have, when you're helping people plan their Hawaii trip, do you have just like the top like must do for them or like your biggest tip or trick?
Yeah. Well, of course, I always start with what typically do you like to do, right? So if you like to be hiking and out and more in nature, that will guide me to some things. I do a lot of family trips where you've got, grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, kids. And so what I would say, if you've not been before, I would start with the island of Oahu, just because you need to see Waikiki Beach. And there's always great kid activities. That's one thing I do find about Hawaii, is it's very family friendly. And then I would also recommend doing one of the other islands. Why? Because you're there and it's really inexpensive to fly to one of the other islands.
Right.
It's like $50. They do the inter-island flights all the time. And I would pick the second island based on what your family likes to do. So, if you like more hiking and nature, I would send you to Kauai. Or maybe the Big Island, maybe Hawaii, maybe the Big Island of Hawaii, depending on how much nature you want in your trip. If you like more restaurants, upscale places to stay, I would send you to Maui. Yeah, so I would always recommend a second island. So that would be one of my tips. I already gave you the tip of talk to the Uber drivers. But if you're going to go that far, try to pull in a second island, just even if you go for just an overnight, because you will see the difference and contrast between the different islands.
That's really smart. And I feel the same way about Europe because it's so cheap to fly once you're there. So how often do you get over there? You might as well at least go one other place.
Yes, I agree.
Can kind of fit that into your budget a little bit too.
I think our flights were like $40 from like Paris to Ireland, or
really
even
affordable.
to Italy was like 80 or something. It's not expensive at all.
So it kind of goes back to your traveling style, what you like to do.
Yeah. And now we know Hawaii has it all. So planning my trip.
It doesn't have Europe, but I don't know if you like to read, but the book Hawaii, it's very thick, but it's an amazing book to read about the cultures and how the cultures came together, being that you like history. I think that's what first got me so intrigued about Hawaii, was reading about the history and how, the different cultures that came together on the island. And then the Christians came over and tried to, be ministers and convert them to Christianity, and how all those cultures came together and melded, which you definitely feel when you come onto the island. But I'm a history buff too, so I like to kind of know what's the history. And when you go to Europe, oh my gosh, you really have a sense of history and how young we are as American.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk in a pub, it's been open 1,000 years in some situations, and like you just can't comprehend that here in America. So
Don't.
I love that.
Were you able to go to the Pearl Harbor Museum?
Oh yes.
Okay, I was gonna say I hope you were.
Yeah.
We love that. We love
that would be my
me
number
and my
one
cousin
thing going.
That went, and we did not want to leave. Like we stayed there all day. It was so hot, but we did not want to leave. It was so just, I mean, not cool, but it was cool to see.
Yeah.
It's
So
history, yeah.
informational. It was just, it was crazy. And we went on September 11th too, which
Oh,
is like, kind of an important day for Americans, I would say, September
mm.
11th.
Definitely.
So we were just taking it all in.
And some of the history of Pearl Harbor that I
Yeah,
hadn't realized.
same.
And the radio transmissions that they had the live radio transmissions that had happened during that day. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Just gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah, it was crazy. You got to see that too, Jenny. You would really like that.
Even when Hawaii wasn't on my radar, I was like, but I do really want to see Pearl Harbor. Like, that's always been at the top of my list.
Jenny would
Right
like that for
now,
sure.
right now to visit Pearl Harbor, you have to book online and they have limited, you can only be there for 2 hours and just with
Oh
COVID stuff.
wow. Right.
Yeah, so with Hawaii with COVID, they just don't have the hospitals to deal with
Right.
with major outbreaks of COVID issues. So they've been fairly
Strict, yeah.
strict with their
Yeah.
guidelines to visit the islands and all of that. But they're loosening up, and their numbers are going up as far as people sick, but not people in the hospital, sort of similar to what we're finding here in the United States.
And then going back to like Pearl Harbor and Jamie, like how it affected you, I think that's one of the most important parts of travel too, is like you know about these things, you've read about them, you learned about them in school, but actually visiting the places where it occurred.
Yes.
Because I went to the 9/11 museum when I was in New York,
Yeah.
Oof.
and obviously everyone knows about what happened that day, but you go in, you hear the 911 calls in some rooms, you hear survivor stories,
Yeah.
you see stuff that was in the building that they pulled out. Like it hits you so much
Surreal.
harder, and you really, I guess, appreciate the importance of it more.
Right.
I also felt that way with the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
would love to go there.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, I
Yeah,
even want to
that
get
really is.
to Germany and go visit all those places.
I know.
Mhm.
We have a Holocaust museum here that's probably nowhere near like the size in Washington, D.C., but I haven't been since I was like a kid. We went for school, but I would love to go again.
So you did say that you focus on special needs travel. Do you want to talk about that a little bit with
Oh,
us?
sure. Yeah, so you've already heard me say, I think everybody should have the joy of travel.
Hmm.
And sometimes when you have special needs, you think you can't travel, whether that's a parent with small children, or perhaps there's people in your family who have health needs. I worked with a family where the daughter was paraplegic, and they felt like they couldn't travel. And I said, no, wait, you can, but there are services out there and we can line those up for you. So they actually went on a cruise and they were able to get all of the equipment that they needed on the cruise ship, so that they didn't need to worry about. She needed a special bed, she needed a special chair, she needed a special wheelchair. We were able to line all of that up. Now that's a pretty extreme case, but I do a lot of family travel, as I mentioned. Sometimes grandma and grandpa can't keep up the pace that the other people can. Well, guess what? We can rent scooters for you. And even if you're going on a large cruise ship, trust me, you might want a scooter. My mother when she was alive, would always have a scooter because the ships are so big to get
Yeah.
around. Or if you've got small children that they just aren't going to keep up with the pace when you're on vacation, okay, there's resources that we can get. If you have somebody in your family who uses a wheelchair, and maybe it's just because they had knee replacement surgery, so it's not a lifelong health issue with them, but it's a temporary kind of health situation that's come up, they actually have a wheelchair that you can wheel on the beach. It's called a job, and it's got great big plastic wheels on it so it can get through the sand. And it's low riding, so you can wheel it right out onto the beach through the sand. You can rail it right out into the water so that
I've
they
seen
can
those.
experience
Wow.
the sea and the water. And again, who would know if you don't think to ask that, or you think that you just can't travel because there's no way that you could get to the beach? Guess what? There is.
Hmm.
Some people need oxygen. Some people can't sleep flat in a bed because maybe they have some acid reflux stuff going on. You can rent recliners so that you can sit up. So I love getting the message out there that you deserve the joy of travel, and there are options out there that should not prevent you from traveling. If we just kind of outline what it is that you need. So it goes back to our travel style conversation. Travel style can be, where do you like to stay, but it's also what's happening right now in your life and what can we do to recreate what you need at home while you travel.
Mm-hmm.
So you need oxygen. We can make arrangements for you to have oxygen from the minute you leave your home to the minute you come back home with different suppliers along the way. I think it's an area of travel that we don't talk about much, that maybe people don't even realize is out there, but it's certainly one that is very doable and does not need to restrict your travel. As a matter of fact, it can open up the possibilities of travel.
Right.
That's incredible that they actually have options for anything that you might need, but I feel like it's never advertised anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Right. The word needs to get out for those people that think it's impossible when really it's just a question away.
Exactly.
And maybe they don't know to ask.
And so I would say to people, so part of my passion with this chapter of my life that's open and being a travel advisor is I just want to be a resource to people. So if they're thinking about travel and they're not sure, give me a call. There's no fee to calling me. Most people don't realize that the majority of travel advisors don't charge you anything I'm paid by the vendors. So if you book a cruise, I get paid by the cruise line. You book a hotel, I get paid by the hotel. And so there's no fee at all to call and ask a question and let me help find out what I can for you to be able, so you can open those doors to finding out the world. And in this crazy world we live in, with COVID and, everything changes daily. I get daily updates as to what's happening with cruises, what's happening with land travel, what's happening with different countries. Why would you not want at least somebody to answer those questions for you? And quite honestly, we can book things on our own. There's no secret to that, right? There's all kinds of online services. But when you're booking something that's a little bit more complicated, or particularly in the COVID world, why would you not, I'm biased obviously in saying this, but why would you not have someone help you with that? Because if you have an issue in your travel, try calling Costco Travel and help on the last minute when your hotel doesn't work out for you, or Expedia and having them solve that for you. I've had clients call me, they call me or text me from wherever they're at, and within 45 minutes, we've got it solved. There's a real person on the other end of the phone. So whether they use your Disney person or me or somebody else, there's a real person there that is going to jump in and solve it for them. And when you're paying a lot of money for travel, you don't want to spend a day trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it might be something that you've seen several times and really quickly how to, well, this is what we're going to do. So
yep. I feel like this might be the best kept secret. It's using a travel advisor.
It's not a secret anymore.
Yeah.
I really do think a lot of people don't, because they're like, well, it's going to cost more money on top of everything. I think that's why people, because they don't ask.
Exactly.
They just need to ask.
And just keep in mind that, somebody's getting that commission. So if you book through Expedia is getting that commission on your trip. It's just a matter of if you want a real live small person business to get that commission, or if you want to pay it to the internet.
Right. Support local.
Yeah. So
support an actual person.
Right.
Opposed to a huge corporation
that already has enough money.
Yeah.
That's kept secret.
Wow. We've shared a lot of secrets today.
Don't tell anyone.
I can't wait to share with everybody.
We're opposite here. You're like, can't wait to share. And I'm like, don't tell anyone.
Right.
Because they need to be our secrets. So and I feel like it might be Hawaii, but what is the favorite place you've been?
Well, it would be Hawaii is sort of my go-to place. On my bucket list, I would love to go to the Galapagos Islands. The best way to do that is through a cruise ship. because they can get you up close and personal, where there's a lot of Galapagos that you can't go on. It's not like you can land and stay in a hotel. That would be on my bucket list. But, I love to travel. I'm sort of like you, Jenny. The world is places and cultures I have not met yet. I'm always open to new adventures.
Yeah, I don't think there's somewhere that I would say no to. And then before we head out for the day, you live in Minneapolis. Is there like a really good brewery near you?
Oh my gosh, we have so many breweries. It's just all over the place. Our go-to, because we live close to it, is Man Brewing.
Cool.
I like
And
the
I like
name.
the beers there. They make a hazelnut porter it's
Ooh.
seasonal. Yeah, ooh is right. It's very nice. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the same thing is happening in other states, but we've just had a plethora of
They're
brew.
growing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And they're
love
all
it.
good. They're all good. And the sours are a big trend right now with some of the brew pubs. Yeah, that'd probably be my favorite that's near us.
Bald Man Brewing.
And what would you say is like for anyone visiting, like the must do?
Well, I think Minneapolis is a well-kept secret. There are so many things. We have award-winning restaurants in the Twin Cities that are reopening. So obviously we've been closed down for a bit, but we also have beautiful parks and lakes. We're the land of 10,000 lakes now. Our Wisconsin friends would probably argue with that. But we do have a lot of lakes here. And up north is beautiful, just like Michigan. Up north is definitely different than the Twin Cities, which we have a lot more parks. But all of the parks have lakes, and there are lots of running, lots of biking in the summer. If you're here in the winter, if you like to ice fish, great place, and ice skate. Interestingly, I have some people from Hawaii that are like, what does it look like when it snows? So we do Zoom calls and I show them the snow because they've never seen the snow. But if you like winter and winter kinds of things, cross-country skiing is big around here. We live at the foot of a ski hill, but compared to Colorado, you would laugh at the size of our ski hill. But there's so many things that you can do. I'm not a big cold weather fan, which is why I like to travel in the winter. But Minneapolis has a lot of good culture, good museums, good theater district. We've got a good theater district. So I think a lot of people who come to Minneapolis are surprised by how much there is and the variety of things when they come.
I had never heard anything about it, and now I have to go there. So
yeah. And if
Add
you're
it to the
coming,
list.
give me a call. I'll be happy to fill you in on whatever's happening during the time of period you're coming.
Most definitely.
we can go to Bald Man Brewing and have a hazelnut porter together.
There we go.
Heck yeah.
Well, thank you so much
fun.
for coming on today.
Oh,
This was
thank
fun.
you.
Yeah,
It has been fun. And the time went so quickly.
I know.
It always does.
Anyway, thanks for having me on the show.
Yes.
It's been delightful. If people want to get a hold of me, it's at lettraveladventuresbegin.com. And I'd love to just answer any travel questions.
Yeah, ask. Give her a call and ask.
Just ask. Awesome. Thank you again, Cheryl.
Bye. Thank you again so much to Cheryl for coming on. We had so much fun. And I know for sure when me and Jamie are making our next Hawaii trip, we're going to hit you up for them details.
Yeah, Cheryl is, I feel like, a professional in her field. She knows a wide range of a lot of things. So planning travels to a destination, maybe a cruise, Cheryl is going to be your gal. So please check Cheryl out at lettraveladventuresbegin.com. You can also check her out on Instagram. It's just going to be her name, Cheryl Leitschuh, but Leitschuh is not spelled how you would think it's spelled. Leitschhuh, and then just typical spelling for Cheryl before that. Or go ahead and Google Let Travel Adventures Begin, and I'm sure it'll pop up everything Cheryl Leitschuh.
And we'll definitely make sure to link it on our socials. So you can find us Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Jet Sitters Pod.
And please send us an email, say hi, send us a crazy travel story, a suggestion for an episode, really anything.
jetsethers@gmail.com.
Go on, rate us, give us a review.
You know what to do. See you next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.